Eric Brandstrom is a really highly touted prospect, like really highly touted, and Pierre Dorion was hammering that home yesterday in his press conference. That's the best piece we, the Ottawa Senators, have received. What I found interesting, Bob, about the whole scenario was when Karlsson got traded, they put a conditional pick on whether or not he re-signs. Mm-hmm. When Duchesne got traded, they put a conditional pick. Stone got traded and actually signed. And I didn't sense like they got some great pick. They got a second rounder in 2020. But why, like, he actually did sign. Why didn't Vegas have to give up a first for that?
Because the deal was the deal, and the deal wasn't happening unless he signed. That's the fascinating thing for me, is that Vegas is not doing the deal unless they get a contract extension. So you didn't need to put conditional picks in. They were only prepared to give up Brandstrom and Lindbergh and a second-round pick for Mark Stone, signed, sealed, and delivered. That was it. And I know what you're going to say next. Well, it's not enough, and fair enough, it might not be. But I think the market went soft on Mark Stone. I mean, Winnipeg pulled out in the morning. And basically went and got Kevin Hayes, said, we're not doing the Mark Stone dance anymore. We're done. And he's a hometown boy that we all assumed that them in Nashville would have this arms race. We assumed Winnipeg and Nashville are going to bid this thing up and Ottawa is going to make out like a bandit because of it. Well, guess what? Very early on deadline day, Winnipeg said, yeah, you know what? We're not going to get Mark Stone. We'll go get Kevin Hayes and do a bunch of depth deals. And we thought that Nashville was going to be all in for him. And then the word on Monday morning basically filtered out, Nashville could take or leave a Mark Stone deal. They're going to wait till closer to the deadline and try to get a Simmons or a Furland or somebody like that. And they ended up doing two deals, one for Granlund and one for Simmons. So there was no bidding process going on there. Calgary said, we don't mind taking this guy. We don't mind getting him. We're not giving you Valimaki. We're not giving you our primary prospect on the blue line. And so suddenly there wasn't this huge fever pitch to get Mark Stone. And I think Ottawa obviously knew that. And they knew that if they could get a guy like Brandstrom, that's 10 years from now, if it all goes according to plan, this guy's going to be a top pair offensive dynamic defenseman in the National Hockey League. So if anybody says, hey, what'd they ever get for that Mark Stone guy anyways? And they'll say, it was Eric Brandstrom. And you go, oh, wow, that was a good deal. Because that's somebody they should be able to hang their hat on. But they didn't need to put a conditional pick in because the deal's not happening if he gets signed, which is all the more interesting because imagine you're Pierre Dorion and whatever the timing on it was, say it's 1 o'clock. So you've got a deal worked out with Vegas, but it's conditional on them getting the contract done. So now you go, okay, go off and do your contract. But you're sitting there and there's a 3 o'clock deadline. What if they don't get Stone signed and the thing's dragging out and it's dragging out? Pierre Dorion and the Ottawa Senators will be freaking out because, you've got to put your own deadline on that and say, well, if you don't have the contract done by such and such a time, we got to go take the next best offer on the table because I can't get left at the altar here. So it was a complicated thing, and it was probably a pressure-packed thing, and I think Ottawa is just glad that they ended up with an A-plus prospect that they can hang their hat on for 10, 15 years.
Well, quickly on that, continuing with this, on the flip side, I would think if I'm Stone and his agent, they're like he got a great contract.
Yeah.
Right? So
Yep.
he's like, I would have to believe that it doesn't seem like there was a ton of negotiation.
Yeah, it was like you put the team under the gun quickly saying, you got to get this done now.
If you want me to play for you this playoffs, it's 8 years, 9.5. Like, how much back and forth can there be?
Yeah, exactly. And here's the thing, too, though, is that's kind of what he was going to get. And you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if the Ottawa offer to him was in that ballpark, to be perfectly honest with you. I've said from the get-go, and say what you want about Eugene Melnyk or the future of the Ottawa Senators, but my understanding is that the effort that they made over the last week or 10 days to try and get Mark Stone signed was sincere and legitimate, and that it wasn't a house of cards contract that was, filled with landmines for Stone or anything else. It was a good faith negotiation and a sincere effort to get him signed. But I think he just feared over the long haul that this franchise wasn't going to be good enough soon enough for his liking.